Our next speaker will be Agnieszka Niezgoda from Microsoft. Agnieszka is the Senior Technical Specialist in Data and AI at Microsoft, where she helps Microsoft customers realize the potential of data and data science. She has over a decade of experience in data and analytics, gained from working across various industries. She also holds a PhD from Humboldt University of Berlin. Let me prepare the presentation for you. Oh, I think Agnieszka, you'll be sharing the screen.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, so there's no need for presentation. Just one note, if you have any questions to Agnieszka regarding some topics she mentioned, or maybe regarding Microsoft tools, just type the questions in the chat. Agnieszka, it's great to have you. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Could you please just confirm that you can see what I'm sharing?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. Okay, then let me start. I will be talking about Azure OpenAI, what it is, how you can use it, but also about aspects linked to explainability. My name is Agnieszka Niezgoda, and as Łukasz said, I work for Microsoft. I mainly work with the biggest Polish customers, helping them to realize the potential of data and AI. Let me start by saying that AI and generative AI is something with long roots. What I mean is that artificial intelligence isn't actually something which is super new. We saw that it sprang up as soon as in the 50s, and then it developed from there into machine learning, deep learning. However, in most of our minds, the topic of generative AI appeared last year. I would think around February last year. And in the last year, a lot has changed. So this slide wouldn't be up to date, wouldn't describe the situation last year, for example. So what we currently have is language capabilities, meaning GPT-4, 4 Turbo, 3.5 Turbo, and other models. Then we also have GPT-4 Vision, which I will be showing because I'm totally impressed by the model. The models which were popular before, like Babbage, DaVinci, are currently mostly used for fine-tuning purposes. So you can adjust, you can enhance existing models like Babbage and DaVinci to create your own model, which is adjusted to your needs. DALL-E 3, I will also be showing that, and some other capabilities even not mentioned in the slide, like Whisper for transcription and translation, but also text-to-speech, which is just available, has been available for the last like three weeks. And let me just mention that generative AI is not everything that Azure AI has to offer. It's much, much more than that. So for example, computer vision is something that has been there for a while and which is also widely used. And we can integrate it with LLMs, for example, to create value. But also AI search, document intelligence that have been used broadly on projects that leverage Azure OpenAI, and you can also leverage LLMs, you can also leverage Gen AI in low-code tools. So for example, by using so-called PVA, so Power Virtual Agents or Power Automate. And let me also just very briefly mention that Microsoft launched a number of copilots. Copilots are ready-made products which are incorporated into other Microsoft products. And the most well-known ones are, of course, those for Office 365, but there's more than that. So it makes sense to check whether a copilot exists maybe for an application if you are attempting to create a new one. And let me also add that these solutions, I mean Azure OpenAI models, aren't necessarily solutions that you have to use in the form that is already there. What I mean is that normally you try to customize them for the model to behave and for you to use the model to reach specific goals. And there are several ways to do that. Some of them are mentioned in the slide, like prompt engineering. Instructing the model to behave in a specific way, frequently with a few examples. Then RAG, if you deal with LLMs, you know the term RAG. For example, if you want a model to use your own data, it is widely used, and also fine-tuning, which means enhancing the model. So teaching it additional how it should behave, for example. But let me show you how it works in practice. Azure OpenAI, the models that are available there, they are normally used via API. But here I will be showing how they work in Azure OpenAI Studio, which is a kind of an user interface created just for you to try out how things work. And here you have several blades that present capabilities of these models. In chat, for example, you can ascribe the model a specific role. Like here, you are an AI assistant, and you can ask it questions then. Also in Polish, as you see, it's not a problem. It speaks many languages, and it's very good in Polish. What you can also do, because of these new models, GPT-4 with vision, is that you can discuss pictures, logos, etc. with these models. Like here, I asked it to describe the picture, and it did that precisely. And I think it can be argued that it did it very well. Also here, by the way, this is a picture created by DALL-E 3. So I basically created a logo with DALL-E 3, and I asked another model to interpret it. And it also does it. It can also work with video or with GIF, as in this case. It understands diagrams really, really well. Let me show you here 2 more examples of that. The description of this dress in Polish, and this diagram also in Polish. It's really good when it comes to understanding diagrams and pictures. But before I continue with the presentation, let me also show you DALL-E. Here I have the prompt. So I want to see a picture of a woman sitting in an office space with large windows. The more accurately I describe it, the higher the probability that the result will be actually very good. There are also some parameters that we can add, both to what I showed before, to chat, and here to DALL-E. So here we have settings, and I can, for example, select the image style and quality. Okay, let me go back to the presentation. When it comes to the use cases, there are 4 use cases which are like the most typical ones, and you can think about them as inspiration for your use cases. 1, productivity. When it comes to productivity, you can use these models to generate code, to generate documentation for your code, and to create reports or analyze reports, to extract some information from reports and from some texts. Then when it comes to process automation, of course, you can use them for OCR. So this isn't the only tool in the ecosystem of Azure AI when it comes to OCR, but it's one of possible solutions: fraud detection, workflow management. Then when it comes to customer experience, we see a lot of call center analytics projects starting. So a lot of topics related to intelligent contact center, which frequently also involves integration between various AI capabilities. So we first have speech to text. The customer calls us and we want to have the conversation transcribed, and then probably we want to extract some information, for example, the sentiment conveyed, or whether the case with which the customer called us has been solved. And then also everything related to creative content. So the logo that I showed you, where I asked GPT-4 Vision to interpret it, was actually created by DALL-E 3. These models are very good when it comes to creating marketing materials, sales, communication, pictures. And when it comes to explainability, let me hint at a few key aspects here. Of course, these models are very complex. This 175 billion parameters that you see here listed in the slides were used for GPT-3. Now it's even much more than that, which means that it would be difficult to understand the source of every answer, every reply that these models deliver back. At the same time, there are aspects which are important to consider if we want to understand why models behave the way they do. For example, it's important to understand the technology and the model used. Here, just two examples. These are language models, meaning that they aren't the best solution when it comes to mathematical operations, especially difficult mathematical formulas. You can integrate these models with, for example, ML models. And actually, we see more and more of this coming up. And it's a very interesting development. I think the solutions that will be created using this kind of integration have a potential of turning really exciting. However, then it's not the language model that does the maths. It's something else. For example, the inference endpoint from, I don't know, Databricks, AML, delivering the result, and then LLM is just using it. Also, from the compliance and from the responsible AI perspective, they shouldn't be used as pilots, meaning they shouldn't carry you. You should be in the driving seat. They play the role of co-pilots. These models aren't deterministic unless you really want them to be. What I mean here is that in the new models, you have this parameter which is called seed. So you can try to generate the same answer, the same reply several times. It won't always work, but mostly it will. This helps to develop new solutions, especially, as I say, in the development process, less so when the solution has been already launched. And the reason is simple enough. Using this determinism diminishes the level of AI basically in your AI solution. So we are using AI in order for them not to be deterministic, in order for them to adjust and find the best possible response to what the customer or the user is asking about. But keeping in mind that these models aren't deterministic, do we have to accept that they will hallucinate from time to time? And I'm convinced that the answer is no. There are very good methods to reduce the risk of hallucinations. The challenge here is that these things have to be simply thought about. we have to consider that these models can hallucinate, and we have to plan for hallucinations, meaning we have to have a plan how to deal with that risk. And some of the methods of dealing with them are easy enough: prompt, parameters, selecting the correct model. For example, GPT-4 has a lower propensity to hallucinate than GPT-3.5 Turbo. Using good quality data is, of course, extremely important. One of the previous speakers mentioned that, and I absolutely agree with that. If we have contradictory data and we ask our chatbot to deliver a response based on this data, well, the odds are that the reply won't be that good. Then grounding, which I will show in a second, and testing, but also designing correct process. For example, designing a few step process, meaning that first response is created, but in the second step, it is checked once again, whether it is correct, whether it is factual, whether it doesn't hallucinate. Self-consistency, meaning that these models sometimes hallucinate, but normally they don't. So if we create 5 answers to the same questions, the dominating answer, the majority answer will probably be correct. And here you see what grounding means. So basically we want to show what the source of the information is, and we want to make it also visible to the user so that the user can check it with the human eye. Also, when it comes to the evaluation, it is now part of the AI solution creation process. So this is part of the Azure AI Studio. What I've been just talking about is, of course, part of Microsoft's responsible AI. But there is more to the responsible AI principles that I've just mentioned. So it's also about inclusiveness, it's also about fairness, transparency, etc. And there are 2 layers of that. One, these rules are already there in the models, meaning that if we ask even GPT 3.5 Turbo how to steal a car, we won't get an answer. They have been created in a way to prevent them from delivering a response to such questions. But also, to some extent, of course, it's customers' obligation, it's customers' the decision to implement additional checks here. And the technology makes it easier. For example, you have access to these controls, and you can decide whether you want to accept, for example, some level of hate talk, what has been identified as hate talk, self-harm, sexual content in the prompts and in the completions, so in the answers, or not. You can also switch it off, but then you are responsible for assuring that you get the answers that you would like to get yourself. And red teaming is also a very important point, meaning that it's good to have a team of people who are aware of the risks, who create a framework to observe whether the risks have materialized or not necessarily, and who take care of securing that they won't materialize in the future. I will just mention briefly that prompting tends to be underestimated, although it is actually a very important part of securing that your model will behave the way you want it to. You can specify the format, the style of the response. So if you have a free evening, I would absolutely encourage you to take a look at it. This is very well documented on Microsoft's websites. Also, more advanced ways to impact, to influence the behavior of the models exist, like the React framework. And what I just said, that you can control the behavior of the models to some extent, is also true for this for this new paradigm called agent-based approach. Here you have an example from AutoGen, where you create your agents, meaning that you define them, you give them specific capabilities, specific skills, and then you set a goal for them. And they start to cooperate in order to reach the goal that you set for them. Even in this case, you have access to the so-called recipe, and then the recipe shows what has happened, what the agent's behavior was, and you can reuse it afterwards. Let me skip that because we don't really have time. And I will just mention to wind up that, of course, you can also log and monitor the behavior of your models. Also here, there are best practices which are available to everybody. If there are any questions, I will be happy to address them.
We do have questions. Agnieszka, thank you very much for the talk. And okay, are other image generators available, or will they be available in the foreseeable future within Azure?
You mean other image generators apart from DALL-E 3? I haven't heard about such plans, but when it comes to AI, the situation tends to change quite a lot. So it's absolutely possible that some news will come up soon. And if it does, we will absolutely share it.
Okay, next question. Why hasn't some AI that knows how to do math been integrated into OpenAI yet? So many tools have been integrated, but math has not.
It's not like they don't do maths at all, but maths and calculations go a bit against the basic mechanism, how these models work. So how they work is that the next token is predicted. So basically the next part of the word. So it's not precisely how maths work. And yes, you can integrate maths. You can integrate actually various capabilities which these models don't have. I created such a plugin, for example, for myself, just to prove whether it will work, and it will work. It works. However, for things like creating complex ML models, etc., the question is, why bother? I mean, there are better tools for that, and then you can integrate the tools with LLMs to use the potential of the two solutions without trying artificially to make LLMs something that they are not.
Another one is about multimodal models. So for some time, RAGs have been created using PDFs or text-like document, struggling to process tables, images, etc. Are there existing solutions for multimodal RAG chatbots?
Absolutely. So you can use plenty of other sources. Actually, I might even be able to show you something that I've created for myself. So this is my Copilot. This is an app, a very easy one that I created to test, for example, how plugins work, how integrations work. And it connects, for example, to a file, CSV file, in order to check info that I'm interested in. For example, it basically checks in another file and it gives me this answer. Of course, this is made up. And there are even accelerators, meaning GitHub repositories available to everybody, which include code concerning how to use SQL databases, data stored in SQL databases in your rack. So yeah, this is possible. Of course, also pictures, it's not a problem. You can create embeddings for pictures.
Okay, so we have all the questions done. Thank you very much for your talk and for sharing with us all those use cases and all those functionalities that Azure provides us with. So again, thank you very much for your talk.
Thank you.
And now we are heading over to our next speaker.